Hello and welcome back to another episode of the HRER podcast, where we delve into the world of HR emergencies and scandals. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to HRER on your favourite podcast platform.
Get ready for scandalous stories, lessons learned, and a generous dose of advice for HR professionals for navigating the HR landscape.
Our goal here is not just to entertain, but also to help you learn from the topics we touch on in order to save your business from its own emergency.
When we put our operational management head on, we're thinking, well, we've recruited this person and we just can't seem to get them in the building. Right now, we're pretty safe with this kind of stuff. When the Employment Rights Bill comes in, day one rights, again, we need to show that we're following processes, we're doing what we should be doing during these periods. We can't just go, actually, this has got a bit of a ridiculous situation, we're just going to terminate. You know what, there's a lot going on with this person. How likely is it that this person has lost their mother, had the house broken into, been assaulted, and then now is having a mental breakdown? Just before we start, protect your business from the risk of tribunal, reduce legal costs, and save yourself from HR headaches with our HRoes software and employment law consultancy services. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the employee never showed up to work, but there's like an undertone of physical assault and violence because it's...
So title of the episode, The Employee Who Never Showed Up.
Never showed up, yeah. But the assault is in there.
Yeah.
As like a buffer, isn't it?
Okay. Well, do you want to...
You've had an accident.
Oh, of course. I was like, what's he getting at then? And then I was like, I forgot. We've actually got something we need to address. So for anyone who actually is watching this, watching it the old-fashioned way rather than listening, may notice that I am sporting less impressive black eye. It was very impressive.
Yeah,
a week ago.
It was big.
Nothing sinister. I was away on active RNLI duties in the Netherlands on a crew exchange last week and had an accident on a police boat. So all good over here, rather than the whole, what is that on her face?
Yeah, who's done that?
Who has done that? We are going to link it in with a bit of violence and assault into this story, I think, aren't we?
Tactically, yeah, we've done that tactically.
Yeah, we're good at the not so subtle links. So
yeah.
So with that, if you want to kick off with
the email itself, let's do it. Hi Alyssa, as you know, we're a small business of around 15 people, and we recently hired someone who worked just one day before reporting that his mother was unwell. We allowed him to take some time off, after which he informed us that his mother had passed away. On the morning he was due to return, he messaged to say his house had been broken into, that he'd been assaulted and was in hospital. We gave him additional time off. He then said he was struggling with his mental health and was in hospital as a result, again, unable to return. Since then, we've attempted 4 separate occasions to arrange a welfare meeting to discuss his absence, explain our sickness policy, and make a plan for his return. Each time he has agreed to attend, expressed the desire to come back, but then failed to show up or answer calls. We still haven't received a GP note, also known as a fit note in the UK.
Yeah. Look at you picking up the link.
Get in there.
Yeah, so...
A lot there, isn't there?
I mean, I'd love to say it's the first time I've had a query like this. It's not. It's something that I think we're probably going to see more of where an employment rights bill comes in. Not so much someone's life entirely falling apart, but actually the willingness to be off from day one, because we're going to see sickness rights coming in from day one. We don't have the waiting days. It's going to be much easier to be off sooner. But yeah, I mean, poor chap, I suppose, is the first thing that we'd say with this one. He's lost his mother, his house has been broken into, he's been assaulted, he's then had a mental health breakdown. However, we've only managed to get 1 day of work. Was it 1 day? Or did he just go off? Oh yeah, he worked 1 day.
He worked 1 day. Yeah.
So we managed to get 1 day of work out of him before life then falls apart. So this in principle should be relatively straightforward.
Right.
Because when we put our operational management head on, we're thinking, well, we've recruited this person and we just can't seem to get them in the building. But we also have the human element to think of here as well. Mm-hmm. It is human resources, after all.
It is.
This is someone who is potentially in the midst of a breakdown. I think the difficulty that we sometimes feel is, say, for example, something happened to you or to Dawn or any member of the team. You've built up a relationship, there's trust, there's a connection there. Mm-hmm. So you're more likely to give some latitude. Where you've got someone who's only been in a day, you don't really have that sense of loyalty or the sense of, I want to do something for this person. So patience is probably a little bit thin at the beginning. So yeah, there's quite a bit to unpick here. What do we do in this situation, full stop? Do we think he's being honest?
that was my initial thing is like, I want to call.
There's a lot going on, isn't it?
Yeah,
Particularly where we've no fit note. You know, if he's an inpatient from mental health breakdown, he's going to have some medical records to go with this. And relatives dying is one that we see all the time. I do remember somebody, I think there were maybe 4 or 5 grandparent deaths within the space of about 18 months. So yeah, we'll get into all of that and we'll move on to the questions.
Is it bad that my first reaction is like, well, where's the proof then for all this? For the employees, that bad?
No, I do have to tell you, this is a bit of a tangent and a bit of an anecdote. So my brother and my sister-in-law were recently buying a house, moving house and buying a house, and they were having some issues because the house that they were buying, I think the person had passed away, so the house was in probate, and that was all kind of a factor that was in this sale. And the estate agents just were not satisfied that this person was basically no longer with us. So they'd produced the grant of probate. They were then asking for a death certificate. And I think it got to the point where exchange had been kicked so far down the line that my brother was like, I know where she's buried.
I'll take the grave.
We can just. What other proof do you need? Anyway, so that's another legal process. But sort of, nice tangent for us there. But yeah, how do you prove these things? Would you ever, I suppose, if someone came into the office and said, I need some time off because, you know, a parent's died, would we be like, well, can I have a death certificate, please?
A bit much, innit?
A bit much. Remember, we're dealing with people. So yeah, I think there's a few things going on here that we probably would want a bit of proof about, but I think we'd probably be selective over which ones. I think for,
parent death, you're not going to have proof of that. Been robbed and assault, it sounded like he'd been burgled.
Yeah. There'd probably be a police crime number for that, I would expect.
Do you say the word burgled?
Burgled, yeah.
Or did you say broken into?
Broken into, burgled. Yeah, I'd say either.
Say burgled is a very northern word. But yeah. I'd want proof of broken into, assaulted and hospital. They'd have hospital records, wouldn't they, anyway?
Yeah. There'd be a crime number.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I digress. Let's go into questions to ask as HR. At what point does an organisation need to escalate from support to formal action? How do employers, deal with an employee that's not responding?
So in this instance, they've done the right stuff. You know, there's 4 occasions where they've tried to arrange a welfare meeting. They've tried to discuss his absence with him. They've explained the sickness policy. They've tried to make a plan for return. He's engaged to a point and then he drops off. So they're doing all the right things rather than just, he didn't turn up on day 1, we're getting shot. They've taken proactive steps, not just to sort of say, well, if you don't turn up, mate, you're out the door. They're saying, well, look, what can we do to support you? Here's our sickness absence policy. Let's have a welfare chat. So all good stuff. Big tick for that. What I expect would probably happen in this situation, and it's one of my absolute pet peeves, is where you try and contact an employee 15 times, you offer welfare, you offer support, you try and have some formal meetings, you try and do everything that you possibly should. And then when you get to termination, they go, but I had no idea you wanted to speak to me. And it's almost like every attempt to make contact and offer support has absolutely just sort of bounced off a hard surface. So paper trail, audit trail, very, very important, because if this were a situation that were to go sour, we want to be able to show that we have proactively offered support. Right now, we're pretty safe with this kind of stuff. When the Employment Rights Bill comes in, day 1 rights, again, we need to show that we're following processes, we're doing what we should be doing during these periods. We can't just go, actually, this has got a bit of a ridiculous situation, we're just going to terminate. So I'd say they've probably got the balance right here. They've tried informal, they've tried contacting, they've tried the softly stuff, they've tried inviting to formal meetings. I'd be escalating at this point.
Right. You've said it a few times about this Employment Rights Bill, which I'm obviously aware of because we speak about it in office. And then like the sickness from day 1 thing. I feel like, I'm not sure if you said this before, but that kind of encourages like dossers, for lack of a better word now.
I mean, don't say that on LinkedIn. You'll get cancelled.
Right. Okay.
What I would say is, I think there's two tiers of people in people management. You've got the people who deal with teams like ours, where we've got lovely people who don't take the mick. And to assume the worst of someone, you'd be like, oh, how dare you? My team are wonderful and they would never take the mick and I trust them. And, how dare you suggest that someone would be so vindictive as to take advantage of things like this. And then there's the other half of the world that HR have to work with, where you are regularly working with people who are gaming the system.
Right.
But if you openly say, I believe people will take advantage of this, that they are out for an easy buck, And if it means they can get sickness pay from day one, they are going to do it. I guarantee you will get hounded off LinkedIn.
Really?
Because there is this absolute world where, oh no, we must always see the absolute best in people. But generally, in my experience, they're professionals who haven't had to work with the other side of it.
Sheltered individuals.
Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah,
They've obviously worked in some wonderful positions.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely people out there who will game the system.
Take your rose-tinted glasses off.
Yeah, 100%.
Take them
And
off.
by introducing sick pay from day one, because you'll then get people who say, well, I couldn't survive on sick pay. Why would I ever go off on purpose just to get sick pay? But if you're someone who has either been on unemployed for a while or perhaps on other kinds of support, rocking up somewhere on day one and going straight off sick, the likelihood is it's going to be relatively attractive if you know you haven't got the waiting days and you haven't got the lower earnings limits. So
maybe they still live at home as well. They've got like overheads and it's...
And I'm not saying this is everybody. Again, we don't want to,
It's just where my brain went.
get the death threats and
My brain went
property damage. But you will. 100%. There are people who game the system who will take advantage of the fact that there's sick pay from day one. So in pre-employment rights bill world right now, I'd say it's still a bit of a rarity to get people who go off in that first week unless there's something really, really wrong with them. I think we will see more of this when the bill comes in. And I think that the political narrative of, no one's here to game the system, everybody just wants to work, I think it is very naive, and it's evident of people who haven't run businesses where they've had to manage teams of people from all walks of life.
We spoke about this before. It's a similar thing of like the percentage of people that actually go to work now, as opposed to like back in the day, and it's like loads less now. Like people,
the sickness absence rates are through the roof,
and our British GDP is so low out of the top G7 because of that.
Yeah,
I've said that. I've sat here and I've said that I think before, but it's kind of the same thing. I don't think this is going to help.
No, and I think the businesses that are on the lovely side of the fence with this, well, those businesses have the ability to introduce company sick pay if they want to. They don't have to limit it to day 4, to the waiting days. You can be proactive and provide that better environment if you want. I think legislating to expect every business to do it, including small businesses, it's going to be an additional burden.
We'll see.
We will see. Anyways, that was another tangent. But yes, I'd say at this point, we're at the point where we need to escalate to formal action.
Okay. Second question. How do you verify, we spoke about a little bit about this at the start, didn't we? How do you verify the legitimacy of absences, especially in a small business when there's less resource and legal support?
So it's difficult. At the beginning, when we're at the informal stages, I would generally be saying we should be taking the position that we assume people are going to be honest with us. We assume that people are coming from a good place. I hate to enter a situation with the assumption from the off that I'm being lied to, because I think invariably you're not being fair to the person who's sat across from you. As much as it may not be a great life lesson, I think professionally and particularly for HR people, it's better that actually you've taken that positive position and someone has proved you wrong, rather than going into a situation and being proved right.
Yeah, I think if you prove wrong about being negative about someone, you'll probably come out of it being like, quite chirpy about it. Whereas
and I think from a culture perspective, if you've got HR or senior management who are assuming that everyone is being dishonest with them all the time, that's not a psychologically safe environment to be working in. No. We want to approach situations with positivity and the assumption that someone is going to meet us with honesty. If we've got a situation like this where it's all starting to stack up and we're thinking, you know what, there's a lot going on with this person, how likely is it that this person has lost their mother, had their house broken into, been assaulted, and then now is having a mental breakdown, is in hospital? I mean, the mental breakdown could well be legitimate if it's because of all of those.
As a result of the prior.
It's enough to tip anyone over the edge, I suppose. However, you should have policies in place that say that you will cooperate when asked for information or documentation to support your absence. If it's in the policy, it kind of gives us a little bit of a shield. So rather than approaching a situation saying, I don't believe you, you can say, look, I'm so sorry this is all happening to you. Just in line with policy, if you can provide me with X, Y, and Z, then I can complete the paperwork at my end and we can have our discussion then about how I'm going to support you while you're off. So you're not actually going to them saying, I don't believe you, I think you're a liar, give me evidence your mother died. What you're saying is our policy mandates that we ask for supporting documentation. please can you provide it?
Makes it much easier for you guys.
What I would be selective about is what we're asking for. I wouldn't be asking for a death certificate.
No.
I also wouldn't be asking for, pictures of bruises if he's saying he's been assaulted, or the fact that his house has been trashed. A crime reference number is probably going to be sufficient, or perhaps...
The police will have had a look, wouldn't they, if he'd been assaulted?
Yeah, exactly. And then on the medical stuff, that's where the red flag is here, I would say, is because he's saying that he's an inpatient in hospital as a result of his mental health issues, but we don't have a GP note. We don't have anything from the hospital confirming that he's there. That is easy enough to get, and it's quite a reasonable thing to ask for.
Is it legal for absences over a certain length?
Yes, so he can self-certify for the first week. After that, it needs to be certified by a medical professional. Yeah. It doesn't mean that we go down there and frog march him back into work because he doesn't have his paperwork, but it might mean he's not entitled to his SSP.
Right. Okay.
So your eligibility for sick pay
is conditional
on the provision of the minimum requirements being, after a week, the GP note. If you provide company sick pay, so where you top it up, you can be a bit stricter in your policies then to say, well, actually, we are going to expect that you keep in touch, that we get a letter from your doctor, that you allow us to have a medical report done, and that company sick pay is discretionary based on, those elements. So we can absolutely verify, but what I would say is don't forget the human and human resources. I feel like that's going to become my new strapline. Don't forget the human and human resources. Don't be asking for death certificates if they say a parent's died. Let's think about, do we need to prove absolutely every element of this, or are we satisfied he's just not well and that the medical note's going to be enough?
Can't you check, this is such a bizarre thing to ask, but can't you check anyway if someone's passed away? And they're like a register. It's in paper, innit? We're in paper when I was little.
So you get obituaries, obviously.
Right, okay.
In terms of death announcements, I don't really know enough of this. So Laura, who shares my home office, would know this off the top of her head. Maybe she'd be a good guest one day. We talk about death at work a lot. But
we haven't really covered that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can look. No, so you can look up someone's will, I think, or probate details, but I think you need to know date of. I don't know is the answer.
There's got to be a
People
place,
do still do the newspaper announcements though.
Yeah,
that's still a thing.
That's what it was back in the day.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to announce death in newspapers anymore. I don't know. Maybe someone listening can comment. Who knows?
Do they still?
I wouldn't be going down the rabbit hole of looking up people's relatives online to find out if they've died or not. I'd say there's probably easier routes to verify in this situation than that.
Imagine if you went to their town, to the local newsagent, to buy the newspaper.
Go looking for a headstone.
Yeah. Crazy.
Pop into the crematorium. So, you busy these days?
Had anyone that looks like this through recently?
Doris Jones checked in at any point. No, let's not do that. Let's keep this proportionate and professional. And it's going to be, I think, the medical note in this situation rather than the death certificate.
Sounds about right. We've kind of, that last point though, we've spoken a little bit about GP notes and mitigating legal risk. But we haven't covered the grievance bit, so.
No, so I think requiring the documentation definitely helps with legal risk. So we'll touch on that first, purely because if we're going to make decisions based on a scenario, having documentation to back up the decisions that we're making always helps. If we've got someone who's off sick and we're proactively asking for the GP notes and they're not being provided, again, that leaves us an audit trail of if we get to the point where we're terminating or making a decision, in this case, to withdraw the role, that we can go, well, we asked for evidence, they didn't cooperate, therefore we had to judge the situation as we saw it. So that is definitely going to help with mitigating legal risk. If we get the GP note back and it says this person has got a crippling mental health condition, they definitely come under the Equality Act, reasonable adjustment's going to be needed, that's going to help us slam the brakes on and not dive straight into termination because that person's got protection from disability discrimination. So it's really, really key. And the question I often get asked in that situation is, can we just go ahead? Because I don't want to get a GP note because I'm worried about what it's going to say and it's going to mean we're going to have to do further steps. Is they almost don't want to be told.
Right, okay.
That, this person might have a condition because then they know that their hands are tied. They can't just crack on with the process that they've already decided that they want to do. That's really, really dangerous. As an employer, you've got to have a reasonable belief in the reason why you're terminating, and you've got to have done a reasonable investigation. So as a minimum, you're expected to ask for GP notes, medical information, if you're going to make a decision to terminate based on a medical reason.
Right, okay.
And then the second part of the question, so if this employee were to raise a grievance, I'd hear it. It's high risk to bat a grievance away and just say, well, we're not going to listen to your complaints. And they often come at inopportune times. They can be a bit of a pain, particularly in a situation like this where you've only had one day's work out of somebody and then they've gone. But actually, a grievance is going to give you an opportunity to get a bit of a peek at what a legal claim could look like if they are thinking of bringing a legal claim.
Yeah, good point.
It gives us that opportunity to investigate their complaint, understand why they're not happy, give them an outcome and engage them in an appeal process. So in terms of it's a bit like getting to see the exam before you sit in the exam room and do it. You know, it is that bit of a heads up as to what could potentially be coming. So again, as much as it's a process that somebody might think, business is busy, we've had one day's work out with this guy, do I really have to deal with the grievance? I'd be saying I'd use it as an opportunity rather than seeing it as a burden.
Just have a look. Have a look at what they think, innit? It's a peek inside their head, like you say. But yeah, if you're an employee, be careful about raising a grievance in that situation. You don't want...
No, we're not. Please do not say that we're like HRoes, advocating employees not raising complaints. No, grievances in psychologically safe work environments, it's great. It's an opportunity for complaints to be heard and investigated properly and fairly dealt with. Bad employers, that's a different story.
I was going to
altogether.
curse then. I'm getting too relaxed on this podcast. I was going to say a naughty word.
That's why people listen to us. Not for the naughty words, but because we're relaxed, I would say. So.
Very much so.
And people do listen to us because we have gone up in the charts.
14,
yeah, we have more than at least your mother listening to the podcast.
She said the last one was good.
Did she?
Yeah, she messaged me yesterday saying, podcast is really good. And 4 hours later, she was like, the bloke was really good too. It was Bernard, wasn't it?
Bernard was the last one,
Bernard, yeah.
Oh, good. There's our endorsement. I don't think we've had a Trustpilot off your mother yet.
I don't think she knows how to do one. I'll have to show her.
No, we'll get struck off from Trustpilot. They'll accuse us of doing our own. But if she's a legitimate podcast fan,
she's listened to every one, which is, I don't know how I feel.
She might be the only person who has, because I don't think even I've listened to all of them.
I've not listened to all of them.
I was really excited when we first started doing this, and after like the first 10, 15, I'm like, I know what we talked about. I was there. It's fine.
Exactly. So I listened to the first time. I was like, yeah, this is sick. I'm on the video. We're talking about stuff. I'm going to be on YouTube. Novelty wore off in like 3 months.
And if I see myself on TikTok, I'm like, nope.
Yeah. You said it earlier. I hate the sound of my own voice.
Yeah,
I'm the same.
Yeah, I have to listen to myself all day, don't I? So
let's go on to the employee questions.
The next questions.
So employee now. This is a highly sensitive situation for me. Shouldn't the employer be making reasonable adjustments?
So if the employee has a disability, absolutely, yes. If there is either a physical barrier in the workplace that's causing them issues, if there's a policy, criterion or practice that is putting this person at a disadvantage or they need an auxiliary aid, those are the triggers for reasonable adjustments. So, for example, in this situation, employee might say, I have a disability, not to have more patients at the start of employment and allow a bit of extended absence puts me at a disadvantage because as a disabled person, I'm more likely to be off. Mm-hmm. Therefore, could be discriminatory. Well, potentially. But in this situation, if that person isn't providing fit notes, they're not giving us the information that we need, it's difficult to understand whether or not they meet that test. What I would say is, if the employee feels that they need the adjustments, mm-hmm. they should be raising that nice and early with an employer, saying, I have a condition that I believe meets the criteria. These are the reasonable adjustments that I need, and be proactive about it.
Let's hypothesise here.
Mm-hmm.
Say he's been here for 1 day.
Yeah.
In my head, it very much depends on when he discloses this as to if he's taking the mickey or not. If it was like first day, the days in, or in onboarding, if he, I don't know.
Yeah, and I have had this relatively recently, where we've had someone who, not in our business, it's a client, failing probation, hasn't gone well. They've had those informal conversations. They've got to that probation meeting knowing it's not going to be a good one. So no surprises. They've done everything they should be doing. They disclose disability at that point and say, I need reasonable adjustments. It's very, very difficult not to see that as being opportune when they've had the opportunity to do that beforehand. But again, it's approaching that conversation with the best of intentions. If we automatically assume that someone is doing it to be difficult or because they feel that it's going to help them extend their probation, our attitude towards that employee is automatically going to change. You're going to start to treat them like they're a difficult person. And it changes the relationship. So as hard as it is, you've got to approach it with the best of intentions. Think maybe they didn't feel comfortable before now. Maybe they've only recently had a diagnosis. Not everybody feels comfortable talking about their health from day one. So that presumption of positive intent, even in the situations where it's difficult, I would say always still try and do it. Because once something's been disclosed, accusing someone of lying about a condition or using it strategically would be sufficient grounds for an employee to say that's a total breach of trust and confidence. I am out of here, and consider a constructive dismissal claim. At the moment, less risky because we're still within the 2-year situation. We've got the Employment Rights Bill isn't here yet. Once that is here, we're going to have to be very, very careful because it still applies, in the situations of constructive dismissal. And if it's linked to somebody's health, it could also potentially be disability discrimination. So it could make something that actually, for the sake of an extra few weeks worth of process, looking at reasonable adjustments and doing a bit of medical investigation, for the sake of working through that process, which is good practice, you could land yourself in some very technical and complicated hot water by not just following through with that best practice.
It's a funny one, isn't it? There's I don't know. I don't think I put my gluten allergy on application things. I just think, why?
Do you need reasonable adjustments? I mean, maybe there could be less of the Mickey taking.
Gluten-free bickies available, I
did make you a gluten-free banana bread, though.
You did. That was... Yeah.
Actually, everyone did. I made it sound like I was taking the credit for that. No, we all did as part of our banana bread competition.
That was good.
Even if it did sink like a brick.
I do see the other side of it, though, where perhaps there's certain medical... It's just not my gluten allergy is not relevant to whether I can type on a keyboard at a decent level or not.
And that's the thing, just because someone's got a health condition doesn't necessarily mean that there's this automatic right to reasonable adjustments. There's got to be an impact. There's got to be, so we've got the triggers, which is one, if there's a physical issue that because of your disability creates a barrier in the workplace, that presents the obligation for reasonable adjustments. If there's a policy, a criterion or a practice that puts you at a disadvantage because of your disability. So say, for example, we had a workplace where you were not allowed to bring food onto the premises. You had to eat what was given to you in the working day, like at school, and we didn't provide a gluten-free option. That would put you at a disadvantage. It would make you ill. So in order to be able to come to work and perform your role, you would need reasonable adjustments. As it stands, you're fine. You can bring your own dinner in.
I can.
I'm not going to force biscuits down you that have gluten in them. We don't have any policies around partaking in communal food or anything like that.
Must eat bickies every day.
In your situation, if it were classed as a disability, it doesn't just mean that there's this halo of special treatment. The idea around reasonable adjustments is that where we have a difficulty that's presented because of the disability, we tweak things to level the playing field. You don't need the playing field levelling.
No.
At the moment. Who knows?
Yeah. I see both sides of it, though. I don't know. Obviously, depend on what the sort of disability is, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Why would you not disclose it at the start?
But some people don't. Your health is a very private thing.
Mental health's a different one as well, isn't it? Because that's you can make the argument in this context that his mental health has been triggered by the previous two things.
And I don't know if you'd be too young to remember. There used to be a TV advert. I can't remember which charity it was for. It might even have been an NHS one, but it was on the television. So for your generation, adverts are what used to be on the TV in between episodes, not just when you log into Netflix and watch what you
sometimes, aren't they?
I'm being facetious.
They've snuck them back in.
And it had this person who I think had disclosed mental health issues at work. And you see the line manager sort of put their hand on top of the scissors on the desk and scrape them into a drawer and shut the door, suggesting that because this person had mental health issues that they were going to do something violent or unpredictable. And there was some strapline or message around basically, educating yourself and not being so stereotypical about people's mental health. I'd like to say that world has gone, but it hasn't. And I think people do still face negative reactions when they disclose that they have mental health issues.
It's a very difficult thing to talk about, I think, for most people. I think the most important thing of it is not to speak in absolutes. I think a lot of people... when I was younger, I had mental health problems. I was 20, 21. Certain things happened. But I just thought, I don't feel like this all the time. It's here and there.
Yeah.
I I know it's like a proper thing in it, but I have a bit of a problem when people say they have anxiety.
There's
You
different
get
types.
anxious.
There's different types of
No?
anxiety. There's anxious where people get a bit anxious. So where, you've got, if you're at school or university and you've got exams pending, people get a bit anxious. If you've got a job interview coming up or a disciplinary ahead of you, yes, you're going to feel a bit anxious. It's different to an anxiety disorder.
Okay.
So where you do have people who their entire life function is affected by ongoing anxiety, that it's not just linked to life events.
Right.
And tribunals and doctors will differentiate between the two. So typically a tribunal judge will not accept that just feeling anxious or having a bit of anxiety is a disability, but a full-blown anxiety disorder.
They want to see
Can
it
be.
from doctor type thing.
Yeah, they want to, in those situations, they're going to want to see a personal impact statement. They're going to want to see the medical evidence so that they can do that differentiation.
Right, okay. I'm with you. Final question as an employee. What is the compensation if the company does find it to have dismissed? Yeah, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to say that all again, because that was really bad. What is the compensation if the company does find to have dismissed me unfairly?
So at the moment, very, very limited.
Okay.
So this employee would likely be given their notice because it's not a conduct dismissal unless we're saying we think they're lying. The reality is you'd probably be dismissing to say it's just not working out because we just can't get you in here.
You're not coming to work.
You're not coming to work. You're not replying to requests for medical evidence and also not attending the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
During the first month of employment, unless the contract says otherwise, an employee isn't actually entitled to notice. You can dismiss with no
As
notice.
and when, yeah.
Unless there's notice in the contract, in which case you've got to honour that. Unfair dismissal and wrongful dismissal, the outcomes are limited to essentially the notice period within the first 2 years because you don't have the right to bring an unfair dismissal claim. So the value would be very, very low. Where there could be additional value is if there were a discrimination complaint in with this. But what I would be saying, it's not very clear at all that this person would have a discrimination complaint, purely because there's been a lot of attempts to engage with this person. They've been asked for medical information. They've gone through those informal steps. They've tried to arrange welfare meetings. They've sent the sickness policy. The person said they'll turn up to meetings and then hasn't done. We're at the point where you could reasonably say, what else can the employer do at this point? So I would say in this situation, it's not worth anything. Only because, though, the employer's done what they should have done.
They followed procedure.
They've followed procedure. They've engaged. They've tried to look at this person's welfare before they've jumped to policy and procedure and, how can we get this person out? Mm-hmm. They've tried to look after him first before going to those formal steps.
Right, okay. Sort of lessons learned then. What emergency measures can HR departments take to prevent this happening in the workplace in future?
So first things first, good recruitment practices. Let's checking on references and see, before someone starts with us, whether there's any red flags we should be looking for. And again, I know I keep saying this about the Employment Rights Bill, we're going to have to get better at doing that before we take people on board. But then also making sure that your sickness and your absence policies are robust. So it's clear on what is expected from employees. Make sure that they get the handbook before they start so they know what's expected of them. And if you're not sure how to run a sickness absence policy, if you're not sure what you should be doing at these meetings, if you're not sure how to work out what is an acceptable level or not, have a look at the HRoes software. So we've got Bradford factor calculators in there. We've got standard policies. You can upload your own sickness policies. And we've also got the ability to hold sickness meetings through the software as well with full guidance. So if you don't feel that you've got the confidence to do it yourself, have a look at the HR software. If you think, well, actually, I still like having that hand-holding, our consultancy service is amazing with stuff like this. You drop us a line, you go, I'm a bit stuck. We're there and we help. As you see from the podcast, with the sorts of queries that we get.
Nothing we've not done before. Sickness stuff, that's like the absence matters and stuff, isn't it? Yeah. That's it for today.
Yeah.
Solid return to the what do they call it? No guest podcast structure.
I know, it feels a bit quiet in here now, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it feels empty. I always prefer it though. I find the guest things sometimes a little bit funny. I don't know when to peek my head in on that.
I mean, we love the guests. Thank you for joining us. It's very nice of you to give up your time and come on the podcast.
Oops. Yeah, you're all right. I just don't know what to do with myself. But yeah, thanks for your time. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, another good episode, I think. On
Keep
to the next.
watching. Let's go top 10. Like, comment, subscribe. Cheers. Until next time, we're your hosts signing off from HRER. Take care of your HR and may your workplace be disaster-free. Before we go, a big thank you to you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have your own ER stories or suggestions for future episodes, reach out to us at HRoes or on social media, or even hrer@heroes.co.uk. As we navigate the maze of workplace blunders, remember that no organisation is perfect, but by sharing these stories, we can all work towards creating healthier, happier and more productive workplaces.